Ladies and gentlemen, power is over. But that does not mean for one instant of a second that the fun is over. Without a doubt, you are here because the power is out. So stick around, because it's Power Out. Yeah, it's Power Out.
It is Tuesday night here on Love Wrestling, which means it's the first part of your two-parter double feature of reactions here on Love Wrestling, starting with Power Out, our NWA reaction, which will be followed by NXT, covering tonight's episode of NXT. But before I get to the NWA reaction, I gotta do some business with the good people, our new partners over at Manscaped.com. Want to tell you a little bit about one of their newest products here. Support for Love Wrestling is brought to you by Manscaped.com, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champion of the world. Manscaped.com offers precision engineering tools for your family jewels. Love that wordplay. They have just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0, and you heard that right, 4.0. That's like twice the amount of one of AEW's tag teams. So join over the 4 million worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer that we're going to offer to you. Head over to manscaped.com, put our promo code LOVEWRESTLING. That's going to give you 20% off and free shipping worldwide. Wherever you are on the globe, you can get free shipping at Manscaped with the promo code LOVEWRESTLING. Manscaped.com, your balls will thank you. And of course, new partnerships are not the only big change here at Love Wrestling, specifically about here at Power Out. I have always been really excited to welcome a revolving door of special guest co-hosts, and while that option is certainly not closed, I am thrilled to welcome my new official co-host, a familiar face here on Power Out, host of a Wrestling Gal podcast, editor at Grown Ass Women, Ella J. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. How do I follow up that talk about balls? I don't know how to follow that up, Zach. I'm so happy to be here, though.
The bar is set high. You know, the ball talk is come and gone. Perhaps there's an opportunity for more puns and non sequiturs involved there.
We'll see.
Yeah. Just got to keep our ears open and look for the opportunity. Want to say hello to the good people joining us. Of course, always, Bobby, great to see you, friend. Dream Match Bobby. We also got Daniel Fry Sykes. Thank you so much for joining us. Bobby Munson. Hey, Zach. Great show tonight from your good friend, Bobby the Brain Munson. Always thrilled to have you here. And yeah, here, let's talk about the lawnmower for a second. The lawnmower, dog, how much grass they grow in.
Daniel's a part of Team God. I am so happy that he is here today.
Again, the good people at Manscaped are very busy people. Once again, anti-nick technology is going to help you prevent those Man, I am struggling to get comfortable talking about this product. Like, I'm by no means am I puritanical, but I'm certainly going to blush talking about this like here and there. I just know it. But all I mean to say,
gotta do, Zach. Gotta trim that lawn somehow.
Thank you for that. Oh my goodness! But enough ball talk. Let's jump into a little NWA, as that's what we're here for. But before I do, Ella, thank you so much for taking the time and becoming an official part of Powerrrout. This is very exciting.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and be officially a part of Love Wrestling.
While I was thrilled that you took me up on the offer, I was surprised you said yes, because you are like one of the hardest working people in this like content creation circle.
Listen, luckily though, like I said, my Tuesday nights, I knock on wood, I haven't been working Tuesday nights, so I'll be here regardless. So you can't get rid of me.
Wouldn't do it, wouldn't dare try. But again, we got a pretty solid episode of NWA Power to discuss, which is only fitting, welcoming a new guest to the show, making this a very big and special episode of Power. I nearly picked up the Manscaped notes as opposed to the episode notes and ended up almost reading the wrong thing. We got a couple people saying hello. Once again, we still got Daniel, Bobby, and two Bobbies in the chat. Do you want to see the women's tag team tournament for the Crockett Cup? Absolutely, Bobby. Yeah, I mean, like, I haven't really heard much talk about the Crockett Cup. I imagine something's coming up soon, but that'd be really wonderful if they did a women's Crockett Cup. Absolutely, I have time for that. But speaking of the women's division of NWA, Melina is the one who kicks off the show, saying that with her history, with everything she's been first-time achiever in women's wrestling history, she feels like she kind of deserves to be a permanent number one contender in the NWA for the NWA Women's Championship, which I think it's a bit of an interesting dynamic. What did you think of this promo?
I thought it fits Melina's new character. She's gone kind of more heel now. It seems like it fits her. Kind of like this entitled legend. Like I've worked my way up. I don't have nothing else to prove. And it works for her. But also at the same time, I love her. But she's kind of already lost like 2 recent championships, like for the Knockouts Championship, and then just lost at Hard Times 2 against Camille. So I don't know if she could be a permanent number one contender unless she starts building a winning streak. And I love that your cat is here. Love that.
Yeah. Everyone might have seen the camera shake, and you can certainly see him trying to get into the frame. I'll just get this over with. Ticket is here. He is joining Powerrrout, as he's always here to sabotage all of my streams. If you're on Twitch, I don't know if Spencer's had the chance to launch this, but Ticket's got a new emote. So look that up and see if you can drop that in the chat. That'd be very amusing. I was a little confused at the beginning of this promo. Like I thought it was there was something about. She said she was offered a number one contendership match or something to that effect, but there was just a bit of a hiccup there.
I think she might have been added to the Fatal 4-Way at the start of the show after that, but she didn't want to participate because she thinks that she deserves to be number one contender permanently and that she doesn't have to compete for a spot to be number one contender is how I put it. So they gave her an opportunity to potentially earn a number one contendership, but she thinks that she deserves it, rightfully so. So, I mean, starting off, I was a little bit confused, but it sounds like we're getting on the cusp of this new Melina. And I'm kind of here for it. I feel like it's a slow evolution of kind of this entitled veteran who thinks that they don't have to prove anything. And it works for her because she fully embodies that living legend. And it has been a rumor. I don't know if it's been a rumor or if it's reported that she is in the Royal Rumble. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to point that out. Daniel pointed that out in the comments as well. Rumor has it Melina in the Royal Rumble. Absolutely. She's earned her spot as well as Mickey has in the canals of WWE history. I'd be very much happy to see Melina in the Rumble, and I'm all with this heel turn, especially a slow burn towards it. I like Melina's work as a babyface, but I love her work as a heel. I think that's absolutely her strong suit. A few more people we want to say hello to. Ed shouting out ticket equals ratings, as does Bobby, joining in on the ticket train. And Josh, thanks so much for joining us.
Josh, it's morning over there in Australia. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Josh. Did I get this expression wrong? The canals. Anyway, I'm not gonna dwell on my lack of proper idioms there. But also, yeah, Melina in this role is perfect because she's got to take her time and capture the opportunity when it is best for her. Absolutely time for Melina to really just be the opportunist and the great heel that she is. We move on to the first match of the evening. It is the number one contenders match for the women's championship. It's between Kiera Hogan versus Genocide with Taryn Terrell ringside versus Kenzie Page versus Christy Janes. Match begins with everyone targeting Genocide off the bat, but it quickly evolves into a free-for-all. A bit of an impromptu teamwork by Janes and Genocide. Lots of near falls, lots of exciting dives and action. Finish comes with Kiera Hogan hitting Christy Janes with Face the Music. First thing I want to say is the absolute right woman won. Kiera Hogan is riding that wave of the momentum, and it's time for her to have a championship match with Camille. What do you think?
See, I find this interesting though, because Kiera's been on a bit of a losing streak. I mean, she did beat Kenzie a few weeks ago, but she did lose to Mickie James twice. And then they teamed up for the NWA Women's Tag Team Championships and also lost. But then again, nobody in this matchup was really on a winning streak. So I guess it was anybody's game to win. But I did love the spot where Genocide had Kenzie in a submission, and then Christy jumps up on Genocide with the headlock, and then Kiera jumps up on Christy, who's still on Genocide, and gives her a headlock, and it was great.
It was a fun stacked submission going on there. Daniel pointing out, can't blame anyone for attacking Genocide right off the bat. Sonic, thanks for joining us. Sonic Hip Hop, Genocide's got potential. Absolutely, I'm loving seeing her grow as a presence in the NWA. One thing I actually wanted to ask you, Ella, is about Christy Janes. I don't really know too much about her, and I know that she won me over very quickly, especially with that beautiful moonsault to the outside, Devil May Care into the concrete floor and whatnot. And but she's been on a Wrestling Gal, so you've spoken to her. Can you just enlighten me a little bit more about Christy Jane's work?
Sure. Obviously, she's known as the Brazilian Wonder Woman. She's done a lot of work in Mexico and in AAA, and she's also been a part of AEW Dark before against Kylan King, and she was also recently in Capital Championship Wrestling's tournament to crown the first ever CCW champion, where then Kylan got her revenge and Kylan King won. And Christy was also on the PWI Women's 150, I want to say ranking at number 110 around there. And she also has a few championships to her name right now. So she's been everywhere on the East Coast. She's done a lot of work in Texas. She was also part of the pre-show to NWA Empower, obviously against Sky Blue. So she was a part of the first ever match inside the Chase Ballroom for NWA Empower. So she's been everywhere, from Mexico to Texas to the East Coast to the West Coast. She's been everywhere.
Right on, a bit of a journey woman. Those are some impressive feathers in her cap. I really hope that NWA affords her more time, because I really liked what I saw of her in that Fatal 4-Way. Cycling back to the NWA pre-show for Empower, I was disappointed that I missed a lot of that pre-show stuff, because there were some problems with the NWA just not really getting the word out about that. But that is what it is. Yeah, so Daniel popping in, love that the NWA has their new show on YouTube for free. That's right, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern, if I'm not mistaken, perhaps noon. Either way, that's me showing my hand that I didn't catch it this week, but hopefully we'll be covering it on Power in future weeks, on Powerrrout, I should say. Next segment, we've got May Valentine with OGK, Homicide, and La Rebellion. All men are touting their championship aspirations, namely OGK pointing out that the NWA tag titles are in their sights. Mech Wolf, he takes a bit of a low blow remark on how OGK just lost their jobs and then they came crawling to the NWA and telling them that they may be here, but they have to get back in the line, to which Bennett throws it back in his face. No, you get back in the line to throw down with OGK. A really good segment right here. I'm looking forward to that tag team match.
Me too. I'm correct me if I'm like missing somewhere else, but they were talking about a 6-man tag match with the addition of Homicide to La Rebellion, which leads me to wonder, like, who is going to be this mystery partner for OGK? Maybe I just didn't catch it or something, but it looks like we're getting a 6-man tag maybe before we get a tag team championship match.
Yeah, I was a little bit lost on that. And like I had trouble kind of like noting that in my notes, like how do you even didn't know exactly how to record because like and tickets back. I know there's also talk about an NWA 6-man championship, and I was wondering if like May Valentine was kind of alluding to that first before it transitioned to like this heated confrontation between OGK and La Rebellion. But yeah, 6-man tag between the three of them. Who would you put with OGK?
I can't believe I just did. I didn't think of Vincent. Daniel makes a good point. Like Vincent just returned with the Kingdom to Impact Wrestling. Then again, this was taped way prior to Hard to Kill, so it would make sense though if it was Vincent.
I am not too familiar with ROH, but I was immediately enthralled with Vincent, with how he showed up at Impact. I love his mannerisms, and yeah, I want to see more of him. So if he showed up in the NWA for a bit of 6-man action against Homicide and La Rebellion, sign me up. Next up, we've got Jax Dane with Kyle Davis. Kyle notes that Dane's former partner, Anthony Mayweather, the rebranded, formerly known as Crimson, of course, is in the next match, with which Dane says he's had something of a hand in arranging in the match between Anthony and Big Strong Mims. He says that the winner is going to get a chance to face off with Jax Dane in the near future. He also takes exception with NWA honoring legends, to which Rodney Mack comes right out, takes exception to, comes to the defense defending the honor of his wife Jazz, punches Dane out, and Dane runs away with his tail between his legs. What'd you think of this one?
This was honestly also, thank you for making me realize I'm not crazy, because I thought when I saw Mayweather, I'm like, isn't this Crimson?
Yes.
I thought I was going crazy. So thank you for confirming I'm not. But I think it was cool kind of to set up into that Kyle pointed out, oh, so you're just going to face off against the winner who's already worn down. He's like, yep. So, I mean, it had the potential for a cool teacher versus student kind of thing going on. I mean, it set it up for the match. Obviously, the match didn't go maybe as planned, which I guess we'll get into in a bit. With the ending, with the very interesting ending. But I guess, well, you'll get to it. The winner of that match, I guess, is going to go on to face Jax Dane.
Absolutely. You know, I'm also like pretty surprised, pleasantly surprised, I should say, that Rodney Mack is going to be a little more of an established figure here at NWA. He showed up at the pay-per-view to introduce Jazz, and I thought that was going to be the extent of his presence on NWA. Very happy that's not the case. Very happy he comes out and punches Dane in the face. When that goes down, it's going to be a very physical fight that I look forward to. Me
too. Big, strong people going at it. As meaty men slapping meat is the phrase or something.
Yeah, as coined famously by Big E. Bobby has a good point here about he would like to see the ROH wrestlers show up in the women's division. Top of your head, Ella, who would you want to see showing up?
The first person I just thought of was Maserati. I would love her. Obviously, she's a former FSW women's champion based in kind of Las Vegas. She's been making waves in Florida recently and a lot on the West Coast. I mean, you kind of have some ROH representation already with Marty Bell and Allison Kay, but Trish Adora to NWA would be huge. Anybody really from that tournament. I would love to see Willow. Willow's been everywhere, like AEW, MLW. I'm blanking right now, obviously Ring of Honor, but she would be definitely another cool addition if Willow somehow got an opportunity there. But first off the top of my head, I thought it was Maserati.
Okay, right on. We've got a couple names popping up in the chat from Daniel Mandy Leon, as well as Session Moth Martina, absolutely, and Bobby Munson dropping the name Max the Impaler to NWA. Max is someone I just need to see more of, like wherever, like drop them in NWA, in AEW. I want to see them work. Like, come on, they're an incredible presence, and I want to see Max do their thing. We move on to the match that we talked about, that Jax Dane had set up between Anthony Mayweather and Big Strong Mims. This is a teacher versus student match with respect from the top. Very technical match, lots of handshakes and giving each other space. Then it kind of becomes a bit more of something of a cinematic match, for lack of a better term, because it wasn't really wrestling. It was really more dialogue-centric and whatnot. Mims goes for a roll-up, but he lets go of the hold. He has an opportunity to hit Anthony Mayweather with his flying clothesline, but he just hops off the top rope. He says, like, no, man, you're the one who has the issue with Jax Dane. You got to be the one to finish it. You take the match. I'll lie down for you. But, like, Mayweather's having none of it. He's just saying, like, dude, you know, like, wisen up. This is business. Let's wrestle. Let's get this done. To which Mims is not having any of it. Finish comes with Mims just leaving. He's leaving to give Anthony Mayweather the count out victory. Mayweather follows him out, and before the ref can count to 10 for counting them both out, Mims throws Anthony Mayweather back into the ring. So what do you think of that one?
I mean, it's very admirable by Mims. There was just a lot of apprehension going on there. Like, they showed a lot of sportsmanship at the beginning and a lot of dialogue. And maybe Mims is right, though. Maybe Anthony Mayweather, formerly known as Crimson, maybe he does need to be the one to end up facing Jax Dane. So maybe it makes sense. But nevertheless, it's a count-out victory by Anthony Mayweather, and I'm interested to see where Mims goes next from here.
Cycling back to the point about Crimson being rebranded as Anthony Mayweather, I want you to know, like, you're not crazy too, because, like, I had that same moment a few weeks ago when I was like, who's Anthony Mayweather? And, like, I don't really remember, like, them just announcing Crimson is now known as Anthony Mayweather. They just kind of, like, just jumped into it, and that is what it was. But, like, I do... As much as I wasn't crazy about the execution here, I know what they were going for. I do like that the NWA is invested so heavily into Mims right now. This is the second time in recent weeks that they've afforded him a bit of a lengthier segment, and also, like, really just chasing some good sympathy, you know, like last time he was really fighting for Pope's honor, fighting for the NWA against Mike Knox, and this one he had again, problems with the execution aside, they're trying to get him over as, like, a sympathetic character, and that has room to grow and become something else down the road. So I hate to use this idiom, especially in when it comes to wrestling content, but I guess we have to let it play out.
We'll see what happens next week, I guess, with Jax Dane. I'm sure he'll be coming after Anthony Mayweather.
Absolutely. And now that Rodney Mack is kind of like... is another wrinkle in that storyline. So let's see where all these moving parts go. It's going to be very exciting. Backstage, May Valentine with Scion, May Valentine brings up that Scion has mentioned his NWA champion father, which we know very little about. Scion says he came to the NWA to be judged about what he does in the ring, not who he is on the outside. He calls Jedias, who is his opponent for later in the evening, the beginning of his own road for the NWA National Championship. So again, no further elaboration on who this father figure might be within the segment itself. Do you have any thoughts on who that could be?
I have no idea. I mean, just trying to think, like, kayfabe wise who it could be. I have no idea. It seemed that, like, Velvet Sky had no idea either, but I found it interesting. Like, he tells May Valentine, like, that she's one of, like, the only people that he is willing to talk to, because she understands what it feels like to be judged, because she has, like, tattoos and all of this stuff, and he has, like, the mask and all of that. So I thought it was an interesting tie-in. I feel like it has to somehow tie in with who his father is, and of course they kind of alluded that it could be Austin Idol, but he's like, nope. So it's not Austin Idol, we know that.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, when they first kind of, like, presented this angle that he has a father who's a former NWA champion, I had Josiah McDonald from Wrestling Observer on the show, and we just kind of, like, I forget who arrived there first. I think it might have been Josiah, who said, like, oh, what if it's Austin Idol, who is his father? And yeah, it feels like it should tie in, but that segment where they had the commentary booth that you just referred to, where he's like, no, I'm not the father, like, seems like a bit of a red herring. I think they're going to go in a different direction, and where it goes at this point, like, Idol makes the most sense, and I'm curious to what the swerve might be. If anyone in the comments has any thoughts on who Scion's NWA champion father may be, we would love to hear it. Once again, like, it's not necessarily the world champion, could be a national champion or one of the, virtually hundreds of championships in the NWA lineage. So let us know your thoughts in the comments. Bobby popping in to say he would also like to see more Chris Adonis versus Marche Rocket. I'm down for that.
Marche Rocket.
He's great, isn't he?
He is. Well, I've met him in person too, and we had a great time. So he's great.
Right on. I'm glad that he is getting a little more TV time, even if it is in company of the television champion. Hopefully that kind of leads into other directions soon. But we got the next match of the evening, tag team action between the Rude Dudes, Jamie Stanley and El Rudo, versus the Dirty Sexy Boys, Dirty Dango and JTG. Dirty Sexy Dudes are met with chants of "Let's get weird" and "Dirty Sexy." Early offense by Dango is cut short, while the Rude Dudes continue to work him down. JTG comes in like a house on fire. Finish sees JTG hitting a slam on Stanley, and I have a lack of a better term for what to call this move, but like a stalling wedgie slam by JTG to Jamie Stanley. Yeah. Followed up by a flying leg drop by Dango for the win. So what do you think of the Dirty Sexy Boys?
I'm here for DSB, and the crowd was behind them, as Velvet Sky noted. It's really cool to see Dango like thriving again, honestly.
Yes.
And he's still embodying like kind of like this salsa dancer, like sexy vibe. And I'm here for it. Absolutely here for it. I think him and JTG work really well together because they both capitalize on their entertainment value and their contributions that way, but also they back it up in the ring. Obviously their opponents, I think, really controlled most of the matchup until the very end. I thought like this kind of wedgie slam was interesting, and then it was the right call though to have DSB win, as kind of Dirty Dango really showed up at hard times too. So I'm excited to see them make contributions to the tag team division. So maybe in the future we'll get OGK or La Rebellion. So we'll see.
I like these thoughts. I like their integration into the tag team division. A few weeks ago, though, DSB had their debut match against Stevens and Kratos, and it was a match that neither of them could really afford to lose. So I thought it was very odd putting them together. Like, this was like the night after the last pay-per-view, and of course, Stevens and Kratos picked up the win. Are you still laughing at the wedgie slam?
No, I'm thinking of Aaron Stevens at his promo that we'll talk about in a minute.
Oh my goodness. All that to say is, like, this is a match that maybe should have happened a few weeks ago. Yeah. Give JTG and Dango a chance to get over in their first match, but now they're back on the right foot. But yes, Aaron Stevens is in the next segment. Want to pop Daniel's comment here behind them. They're punning the there's a pun due to the wedgies.
I didn't intend to, but yeah, it works.
It's a solid pun, intentional or no. But yes, we have Aaron Stevens, entertaining as always, warning everyone that should I say, Wah is at the door, and Wah is coming. Not a lot to work with, but top of your shot in the dark here. What do you think?
Wah is coming. Like, I don't. It sounded like war at first, yes, and then he's like Wah, like WHA, and then Velvet's like, what is he talking about? And I don't know. Is it some like letter thing, like WHA? Like, is there some like association or tag team that's called like WHA, and it's like what? Like, what's coming? We don't know.
I don't know if I read that deep that it was like really we're looking through for code in his pronunciation of things. I was just thinking of Wario. Like, I doubt there's going to be an NWA Nintendo tie-in, though if there was, I would be first in line for that partnership. But I don't know. I really don't know what to make of it, but again, if it means Aaron Stevens is going to be on my TV being these entertaining, bombastic characters once again, then, I'm
I
all for
enjoyed
it.
though. I really enjoyed it nevertheless. I had no idea what he was talking about, but the execution was there.
Yeah, I mean, again, like once you put him in like these ridiculous characters, be it Mizdow, be it Shooter Stevens, or his work that he was doing in Impact Wrestling, like he doesn't miss. He doesn't miss with these characters. He's so good. I like this from Daniel Warhorse.
Instead of Warhorse. Okay.
It'd be an interesting addition to the NWA, certainly. Next up is the television title match, which we have agreed that we're not going to be covering tonight. It's followed by Scion taking on Jedias with Father James Mitchell ringside. This was the match demanded by Scion. Jedias dominates the match with Scion just like continuing to survive the onslaught. Eventually, Saul Renaro comes out, continuing to try to endear himself to Father James Mitchell. He gets in the match. Jedias picks him up for a body slam and launches him at Scion, leads to a disqualification and a beatdown. I really like this new dynamic from Sal Renaro. I always liked your pal Sal. I think that's very entertaining, but I am interested in this new side of him. And also, like, just his addition to partnering up with Jedias makes Jedias about 10 times more interesting.
I think definitely too, because Judias was not stereotypical, but like this dark, brooding character, but like didn't talk. Not that he needed to, because he had Father Mitchell like backing him up. But the addition of Sal baffles me. But again, it'll play out. But Sal, I mean, ever since losing, he can't vie for which championship again for 18 months now? The
national championship.
Yeah. So he can't. So he needs something. So it's interesting to see him in this new dynamic where he's slowly losing it. I was shocked though that they didn't unmask Scion. He basically had like his clutch on Scion's mask. So perhaps they're waiting till later on in a few months to unmask Scion. But Sal Renalo as kind of this crazy character, I want to see what he's going to do next.
Yeah, absolutely. Like he's another dude who's like really entertaining with these big characters. Like in regards to the mask, like I wonder if the NWA kind of realized that when they do unmask him, if that's the intention overall, that it's not going to be a big reveal. Like, because again, it's we've discussed off air for people who don't want to be spoiled. And it's not going to be like a shocking revelation of who it is under the mask, which I think is why they added this like father is a former champion dynamic. So. Unmasked Scion or not, you know, we'll have to see how it goes. Cody's popping me here. Wadlow. If James Vanderbeek was in the chat, he would have a whole new litany of source material with our Wario jokes. So yeah, moving on, we got the main event of the evening. But before I do, Bobby popping in. Jedias is a national treasure. The definition of national treasure means slightly more entertaining than Okay. Yep. I stand by that definition. Solid definition. Thank you very much, Bobby Munson. Main event of the evening, triple threat tag team action. We've got Matt Cardona and Mike Knox versus Strictly Business versus Trevor Murdoch and Tim Storm. The match sees Cardona continuously dodging Trevor Murdoch at every turn. He's just, you know, whenever he's in the ring, he's tagging out the moment Murdoch is getting any kind of offense in. Finish sees Tim Storm clean house and Tim Storm and Trevor Murdoch clean house, while Matt Cardona lines Tim Storm up and finishes him off with radio silence for the win. Fun match for like on paper. There were a couple like jarring elements that I didn't appreciate Trevor Murdoch looking like such a chump when he's like the NWA champion. And I also felt Strictly Business were a bit of like odd men out. Like they didn't really need to be involved in this story. But fun match. I'll say that. What do you think of this one?
I think it was the right call with the winner. Obviously, if Cardona's going to come in at the end of Hard Times 2 and kind of seemingly challenge Trevor Murdoch for the NWA championship, then this was the right call to get him on the path to continuing his momentum forward in obviously his debut first runs in NWA. Cardona's been on a run, whether people like him or not. He's certainly been a breakout star of 2021 in any place he's gone. So him with the addition to NWA, Mike Knox is a whole other entity, but Matt Cardona to NWA to me is really intriguing because he's been everywhere and really dominating. And if they're going to start him off in having him challenge Trevor sometime down the line, you got to start him off strong. I mean, he didn't pin the champion, but he did pin the champion's partner. So technically that is a loss for Trevor Murdoch. So whether the execution was there or not, I do think this was the right call with the winner though.
100%, absolutely. Like, this couldn't have gone any other way. Like, I took exception to Trevor Murdoch selling as much as he did, but like, again, like this was Matt Cardona's match to win. And you know, to your point, I couldn't agree more about that breakout star remark. Like, he's just been, no matter where he goes, like, he's the perfect foil for whatever company he's in, be it GCW or NWA. He's the perfect heel to the organization itself just by being Matt Cardona, and that's just like generating so much buzz for him. And I love to see it after like the storied, the ups and downs he's had in WWE. Like, I'm a big Matt Cardona guy. I love to see him succeed, and I love to see the buzz surrounding him. And like, what do you think? Do you think he could be the guy who takes the NWA championship off Trevor Murdoch?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, he's come back to Impact, and he did just lose the Impact Championship match. He has become GCW champion, but I think to really catapult him even more, he kind of does need to win a major like championship in one of those more televised companies. And so I could see him doing it. I think it depends going forward how personal this vendetta or rivalry is going to ensue with Trevor Murdoch, because that's just an odd pairing between them. Like, they're two completely different people, but I think it depends on the booking. I think maybe eventually if they're going to bring in Cardona, I think he has to win it sometime down the line. So Murdoch's been champ since late August, so he's had about 4 months right now as champ. Maybe in a couple months. I don't see Cardona winning it in the next like few episodes or like in the very near future, but maybe down the line, yeah.
Okay. I mean, like, what do you say about like they're a bit of an oddball pairing, putting Cardona and Murdoch in the ring? I certainly agree, but couldn't you say the same thing about Cardona and Nick Gage, for example?
That's true. And I mean, Cardona did become very hardcore in that GCW championship reign. So he has shown that he is very versatile, but is he more like, can he adapt to like the old school style of wrestling that really NWA embodies is the question that I have.
That would be very interesting to see Cardona lace up the boots, get a very good chain wrestling match out of Trevor Murdoch, and see what kind of story that they can tell. But with that, we've covered our first episode of NWA Power together as official co-hosts of Powerrrout, LJ.
Thank you. This has been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to do it again next week.
Absolutely. Once again, please hang around this stream because, of course, Astrid, Cody, and Ed are going to be telling you, they're going to be reacting to tonight's NXT with NXTea, and hope you enjoy that. You can follow me on social media at SmartMouth. Ella, if you want to let the audience know where to follow you on socials.
I always get this wrong, but yeah, if you go right here, we're at It's Ella J on Twitter. If you go to the link in my bio, I just updated it yesterday, so all the links there should be up to date, so you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all my podcasts and miscellaneous projects.
Awesome. Once again, consideration for Powerrrout and Love Wrestling is provided by Manscaped and RK Athletics. After the music, you're going to be joined by Ed, Astrid, and Cody with NXT. Thanks for tuning in.
Hello and welcome to NXT. Cody will be joining us in just a moment. He's having a little bit of a technical difficulty, but you're joined by me and Astrid for now. And we just watched NXT, and we'll be honest, it wasn't the greatest NXT in the world. We all have our qualms with this episode. We're all a bit run down a bit today. I'll be honest with that one too. We're all on the sleepy side, so this may be a quicker NXT than you're used to. That being said, Astrid, thank you for joining me tonight. What, I don't know, like, what happened with this episode? It didn't feel that different from another episode of NXT, but for some reason, everything just felt...
I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, it felt like flat to me, especially being a post show for such a big event like New Year's Evil. You can expect it to come up with a bang, like give us like new feuds, new storylines, new something. And it just like, I feel like the best thing for me, at least tonight, was like AJ and Grayson, because it's AJ. And then it's just like, if it wasn't for AJ and Grayson, then what would have been my favorite thing tonight? Because I like the girls match, but it wasn't like my favorite thing in the world. And I feel like the pacing tonight it couldn't keep my attention like I wanted it to. And I hoped it did, but it didn't. And I'm just like, I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, like, it started off with a really hot segment and we got Bobby in here, and we got another Bobby in here as well with Video Press Network. Both of our friends Bobby's going in here saying hello. Cody's updating. He's restarting his computer. He can't get the browser to load, so Cody's letting us know what's going on. But yeah, this show just felt... Zach, we're going to try. And we might have some hell coming back our way because we might be on a non-love side of Love Wrestling tonight. Everything just sort of went up, then went down today. It just... Nothing seemed to like get a steady pace and stay there. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do a quick breakdown of the segments and just like a quick 2-word thing of the segments. And we'll get into what happened during each of these segments as we go on later. But Breaker promo, crossing paths with Santos Escobar, then Zion Quinn versus Escobar, Tony D promo, Grimes package, Mandy at the pool, Unknown versus Grimes, Joe Gacy and Harlan promo, Harlan and Joe Gacy match versus Inoue and Blade, Tony D versus Pete Dunne, Persia, Indy, and Wendy backstage. Toxic Attraction promo. Persia, the women's 6-woman tag. MSK and Dakota promo. KLR promo. Solo and Boa. AJ promo. NA Unification match package. Mello and Trick show up. Mello and Trick's celebration in the ring. Celebration,
I think it was something like that.
It wasn't good. I love Mello and it wasn't good. And then AJ and Grayson match, and then the post match, and like nothing seemed to ride well. And there was a ton of promos, which are fine, but it didn't even feel like so. Yeah, Bobby sits here and says, "Good thing there's not a No Bobby's Club, or one of us would have to sit out." Yes. We're going to talk about Nikita Lyons really soon. Astrid's been giving me hell all week because we finally found out who she is, and she might be replacing Mandy. Let's just leave it at that.
Shock of the year. Here he goes.
But nothing on this show felt super significant.
Yeah.
Nothing on this show felt super important, kind of, sort of. No. Like, we got new feuds. We have a new feud for the 2 top titles. We have 2 brand new feuds. We have feuds going into the Dusty Classic. We have an end of a feud and the progression of another star. Like, they did all the things that we should like the show for. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, it just felt off. We got our friend Bobby saying, "I still can't believe that Grayson, who I was writing about a few years ago, is now locking up with AJ Styles. Such a great Australian talent in NXT." I agree. Grayson Waller has gotten the chance of a lifetime to work with AJ Styles, and he's doing everything he can to make that work. And speaking of that, we're going to go right into that match. That match was fantastic. Now, granted, AJ Styles can have a good match, great match with pretty much anybody. Let's be honest. But Grayson held his own here. I mean, that slide through the ropes into that clothesline is fantastic.
Amazing.
Just absolute. I mean, it rivals the Rey Mysterio Penguin slide that I think is one of the funniest things in the world, where Rey flies out of the ring and flops onto a guy. It rivals his own rolling cutter thing that he does, which I think is a little bit stupider than this one. Like, this one at least makes sense. The other one feels like it has to be really set up to do it, but it's at least intriguing. But give me your thoughts on AJ versus Grayson, our main event.
I excused myself. I was trying to get my Scream tickets for Thursday, but from what I saw, I enjoyed it. No, I feel like it was a good way. Obviously, we get AJ, who, like we said, he can wrestle. He can have a good match with anybody, but at the same time, it was a good showcasing for Grayson at the same time, and I love that too. And it was like that good combination of it. That's why it was my favorite thing for tonight. It was like, we wanted Grayson highlighted. Well, here's your highlight for tonight. And I enjoyed the match. I love seeing him wrestle. So it made you, and then having LA Knight return, which ironically, when the match started, I was thinking, when was the last time we saw LA Knight? And I couldn't remember because I knew it had been a little while, but I didn't remember how long it had been. And then when they mentioned in comments, I was like, thank you for giving me those details that I cannot remember about. And having like Knight and AJ kind of hugging the ring at the end and everything. So I'm guessing Grayson goes back with rivalry with Knight for the moment, but I guess interesting to see Knight back after being off for a couple of weeks. But
Astrid,
overall,
this is for you.
I won't spoil it. I promise. I won't say anything. I'll have my spoiler rule, so at least 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, is out the window.
And Bobby says he wants to see AJ versus Santos. If AJ were staying full time, I think so. I think Santos has another fun feud coming up that I can't wait to see. And we'll talk about that in a little bit because that's one of my things. I did love how AJ is like, Grayson, you thought this was all over and whatnot, but this ain't done. I got a friend that I brought with me, and I'm like, who's AJ friends with? I'm like, did he bring Finn Balor? Like who else is AJ friends with? But no, he brings back out LA Knight, which is nice, and LA Knight gets to try to beat down Grayson Waller, and it makes a whole lot of sense, and it gets us to that feud. I still think Grayson is eliminating AJ from the Rumble, because in AJ's promo earlier, he brought out Eli Drake.
But I also like the AJ line that he said to Grayson is like, you're not phenomenal, but like you're good. And I like basically how he proved himself in the match with him, which is exactly what I hoped it would do. So it was perfect for me.
Yeah, it did exactly what it needed to do. Nothing more, nothing less. It pays off the feud. We don't have to have anything more. Like I said, I still think there's more to be mined from this. I think that you can get this all the way to a WrestleMania match. I really do. I think this could be an opening match or a pre-show match on a WrestleMania card. Grayson Waller taking on AJ Styles, but we will see what they have for AJ Styles. My segment of the night, it starts the night. We get the video package at the beginning of the show talking about Braun Breaker winning the NXT Championship. And then Braun Breaker comes out, and he cuts one of the shortest, quickest, most to-the-point promos I've ever seen from a brand new champion. It is, Tommaso Ciampa's a cool dude. He gave me respect after my match. He went and saw my dad and paid respect to my dad. By the way, we didn't name his dad still. Which I think is great, considering they put him in pictures online. Like if you look on Twitter and you look on the .com, there's videos of him getting in the ring and everything else, which is great. I love it. It's great that he got to have that moment with his son. I just love how they refuse to bring up his name.
It's like, when we don't name him, nobody knows who he is.
If we don't say it, they won't know it. I mean, we want them to know it, but we won't say it anyways. But no, it was a great promo. And he's like, for everybody else who wants to come at me and be the next champion, remember, by the time you get to the PC, I've already worked out. By the time you go to do film study, I've already done it. By the time you decide, hey, I'm going to call it early for the day, I'm still in the PC working out, getting another workout in. He's like, I'm better than you, and I'm going to prove it in and out every night in the ring by what I do before the matches. I'm like, cool. Babyface champion, makes a whole lot of sense. Kind of cocky, but at the same time, he's like, it's kind of that Tom Brady cockiness is the way I would look at it. Tom Brady was always, one of those guys with, I'm not better than everybody else. I just get in before everybody else, put in all the work, and then leave after everybody else is gone. He was always prided on things like that. Larry, being a Boston guy, I'm associating with people like from Boston. Larry Bird was always that way where, after practice, he'd shoot 100 threes just to make sure that he was, more warmed up than everybody else. Just the things that the big stars do and that they just get it. And it felt like he got it. And he's getting ready to leave the ring, and Legado del Fantasma's music plays. And I'm like, ooh, I want that. Give me this match, because I want that match. Yeah. Because seeing him crossing paths with Legado del Fantasma and Santos Escobar, and it just quick ships passing in the night. Hey, you. And he just looks at him and he laughs. Like, he doesn't laugh like, oh, you're beneath me. Oh, Cody's here.
I'm a ship passing in the night. Don't mind.
Yes. Like, Breakker doesn't laugh at Santos, but he
sort of.
Yeah, but he establishes that he doesn't consider Santos Escobar to be on his level, which is fine even for a babyface. But he's not like, haha, you're a cruiserweight, you're beneath me. But it's that cool, like, all right, he doesn't take Santos seriously. This could be fun for a month or two.
Yeah.
Cody, just to recap, I think you've been listening, but
yeah.
To recap, we've basically said that the show is slow. I went through every segment going, there was nothing that could keep the pace of the show at a constant level because it was constantly up, down, 6 promos in a row, followed by a match with 6 more promos and 5 commercial breaks.
Yeah, ultimately, I took my notes. I have the same segment rundown you went through, but it just felt like nothing really stood out as being substantial. And I think we had the same thing. I think that was the last time we really ran into a down episode where we weren't on the same high as a regular week, was the week after Halloween Havoc.
Yeah.
That week after Halloween Havoc just felt like they blew everything the week before. And we thought coming into this one that these matches that were on the card were going to be really, really substantial matches. But the way they played out, the way the stories kind of fizzled in a lot of cases, none of them really jumped off the page until you got to that main event. And maybe it was that they wanted you to stand out on Grayson Waller that much, that they really wanted Grayson to feel like a hot star, top star, like the best part of the programming. It's very possible that was their intent on this, but the way the Santos and Zion match went, and the way that the 6-women tag went, and the way that the Pete Dunne and Tony match went, even just all of it really felt like it dragged. Nothing really stood out, jumped off the page, felt like it was a match you had to see on this show, which made it really hard. I know I was just exhausted in general. I've been burning the candle at both ends for a couple weeks now. So early on in the show, I was kind of struggling through it because it wasn't jumping off the page to me. And I was so tired that I started dozing, and then I had to kind of snap myself back out of it. But it's hard when you've got a show where nothing is really engaging you.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've already given our thoughts on the AJ versus Grayson match. So I want you to go ahead and fill in some of your thoughts on that match.
Yeah, it was a great match. It was exactly what I expected the match to be. I surprisingly hadn't actually thought about LA Knight coming back, but it makes sense because the last time we saw him was when Grayson took him out prior to starting this whole AJ thing. So that obviously that's going forward. But I think I said it after our stream last week off air that it made 0 sense for WWE to put Grayson over on a multi-time world champion like AJ. That this has to be a match where they're going to come in and Grayson is going to come out of it looking like a star, but he's not going to put AJ down for 3. That's just not going to happen. I think you're definitely on the right page that more than likely we're going to see Grayson potentially cost AJ in the Rumble if they want to extend this feud further, but this felt like it could be something that's just a one-off, and now Grayson will be tied up by LA Knight, and maybe they have, again, more ships crossing in the night at the Rumble if Grayson gets a surprise appearance, but I don't think it'll be anything where it's going to draw out into another match anytime soon.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. After on the Braun Breaker promo, Astrid, I wanted to give you a chance to say anything you thought about the Braun Breaker promo and the potential of Santos Escobar versus Braun Breaker.
Oh, yeah, that one I didn't never thought about it, and then when they crossed their paths, I was like, I wouldn't mind seeing this match, to be honest. It's never something like I potentially thought could be happening down the line, but trust me, I'm like seeing Legado on screen. I love seeing them all together. So anything with them, especially Santos getting highlighted, give it to me. So especially him with Braun, that'll be interesting to see.
And Cody?
Yeah, I was waiting when Braun finished his promo and said, like, anybody who thinks they can take me on, come get some, or however he worded it specifically, but it was along those lines, right? Mm-hmm. And then his music hit and he started walking out. I was waiting for some kind of interruption. Yeah. And when Legato's music hit, it wasn't what I expected, but I was like, oh, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. But again, it could just be more ships, fly by, see kind of the reactions, see how people feel on it, and maybe we revisit. Maybe it's just something where they've crossed paths and we can come back to it in 6 months' time and be like, oh, yeah, you were eyeing up my title back then. What took you so long?
Yeah. And then we'll get into the, before we talk with Cody about what he thought was his moment of the night, we'll get into the Santos Escobar versus Zion Quinn match, because that followed. For the prize of Elektra Lopez, who put herself on the pedestal as a prize, which I still think is odd in this day and age. Like, it's just, I don't hate it, but it wasn't something I expected to see, because I thought that the days of the women as the prize was done. But it fit for the feud that we had. But Astrid, I wanted you to go ahead and talk about Santos Escobar versus Zion Quinn.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. It's just like at this time, we'll have like a lady on the line like that. But at the same time, she offered it. So that's what made it a little bit different this time around for me. Overall, just like I like the match. I was always expecting something to happen. I was not thinking she was going to... I wouldn't say I don't think she was gonna betray like La Familia like that. So that's why. But I thought, what is she gonna really do in the match? And seeing how she interrupted, I feel like nobody was expecting it, especially after she was like basically caressing Saya when she did it beforehand. But it just felt like, is it gonna be just over after that? I feel like it needs a little bit more after this, because it just like there's no way it ends just like that, maybe. But I feel like there's something more that needs to happen here, which is the part that it let me like wanting like more about this part of it. But other than that, I liked it.
Cody?
Honestly, I was with you guys last week that it felt kind of weird her putting her up. Now that the match played out and everything has went the way it's went, it makes more sense to the overall story they've been telling. Because she came out, she had interest in Zion, she offered him the position, he said no, she got pissed and said, nobody says no to me. And then somehow we travel back around and now she's sort of interested in him. But the way this match ended, it almost makes like all of these weeks since the first loss to Santos was her just, building him up just to tear him back down again as more revenge for saying no all along. Make him think that she's actually interested still, make him think that there's a chance, and then, just take that away, rip it out from under him and put another L on his record as one last piece of her vendetta. Potentially Zion sticks with this somehow. I don't think it's necessary. I think that at this point you're just kind of beyond it. I don't think there's really much story left to be told, and I'd like to see Zion move on to something more than sticking in this romantic angle for too long.
Yeah. And I think it was funny because in the Slack chat, it's funny watching NXT with the group of us because we're all at different speeds, as we've mentioned before. Where I'm watching on the USA feed from the television, so I'm the closest to live as it can get, other than being in the arena. And then Cody's like a couple seconds behind me on the on his Canadian feed, and then a couple seconds behind Cody is Astrid on the USA Network app feed. And I was sitting there and I was like, as she starts caressing him, I'm like, all right, I'm anticipating heel turn in 5, 4. And I was always typing the message. He turns around and she kicked him in the balls. And I was like, yep, knew it. And just because it's too good not to, speaking of balls, Cody, we need to talk about ways that men can protect their balls. And when we talk about protecting our balls, we want to make sure that people know that this program is a Manscaped sponsored program. And I forgot to get the read up.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Ed, because part of the reason I was late for this stream today was because I was using my Lawnmower 4.0.
Very nice.
No nicks, no scratches, still waterproof, and a nice light to make everything nice and easy for me to get the job done quick and easy.
Yeah, and Manscaped is more than just the Lawnmower 4.0. And don't get me wrong, the Lawnmower 4.0 is one of the most important reasons that you want to get Manscaped. But that being said, there's so much more. There's the Crop Preserver. There's the Crop Reviver. There's also wipes for you to make sure that you stay nice and clean for whatever might happen. There's deodorant, things like that. There's all kinds of wonderful things that Manscaped has to offer. And with us being a Manscaped sponsored podcast, if you go to manscaped.com and use the promo code LOVEWRESTLING at manscaped.com, you'll get 20% off your order and free worldwide shipping. So remember, your balls will thank you when you go to manscaped.com and use promo code LOVEWRESTLING for 20% off and free shipping worldwide.
Just remember, here at Love Wrestling, we love wrestling, but we also love our balls.
We do. And we have Astrid back. It was too good an opportunity not to pull it out.
I couldn't help but look at Astrid dying in the bottom. As I was
No, Bobby's comment just made me die, and I was trying not to.
Yep. 20% off discount allows you to shave 20% off your package. No, it allows you to shave everything you want off your package because it even comes with different clips. So that if you want a longer cut, you can have a longer cut. If you want a closer cut, you can have a closer cut. All kinds of wonderful things come in that package that you get from Manscaped when you use the promo code Love Wrestling. Speaking of other things that you can go ahead and get with Love Wrestling, we do have our What a Maneuver shop at whatamaneuver.net/collections/lovewrestlingca. And if you go there, you can get our two shirts that we've already had. And remember that we have a new shirt coming. And I've heard that they might be shipping soon with the Live, Laugh, Love Wrestling shirts that were available on pre-order. So go ahead and check out that. And if you want, and just wanted to find anything Love Wrestling related for shop, go to lovewrestling.ca/shop. And you can find the Sunday brunch mug and stickers and face masks. I think we have some of those back in stock. I'm not sure. But if you want to know, go to lovewrestling.ca/shop.
I'm just going to throw out there on the What a Maneuver shop as well, just to clarify for everyone, the white logoing t-shirts and the standard logo t-shirts are all to us, but the rainbow shirt, the pride shirt, all of that is the proceeds are being donated to the charity,
the Trevor Project,
Trevor Project charity. So you're not just supporting the Love Wrestling wearing the shirt, you're also supporting a wonderful charity by taking advantage of that. So definitely check that out on the What a Maneuver Love Wrestling shop.
Getting back to NXT, because, we love to get off track.
Yes. Somewhere Cody, with Zion being hit in the balls.
Yeah. And he lost, and poor him, and
Legado need some of that Crop Reviver.
He is definitely going to need some Crop Reviver. We then get a very nice Tony D'Angelo promo where he's backstage talking about how all he wanted was a mouth guard, and Pete Dunne couldn't happily give him the mouth guard and fade away and classify himself as obsolete. Obsolete. I did say pulling it out after a Manscaped read. I did. This is the joys of Ed,
stay on topic.
Well, we're gonna get off topic. We're gonna get off topic real quick in a minute here. We then had a Cameron Grimes.
Is in charge, Ed. Tony's D is in charge.
So Tony promos up the upcoming Crowbar and a pole match. Yeah, that's what there was. Crowbar and a pole. And of course, if poles, we're just going all the way off. We then get Cameron Grimes, who talks about wanting to win championships in 2022. Yay for Cameron Grimes and going for championships. It's about bloody time.
2022 the moon.
Yes, 2022 the moon. We then getting back to Manscaped and the needs for Manscaped, we get Mandy at the pool. Yes. We get Mandy at the pool cutting another wonderful promo talking about how she beat everybody. I mean, she didn't beat Cora Jade. She beat Cora Jade's hair. That's about all she pinned on Cora Jade, but
And we haven't seen Cora Jade since, so
I haven't seen Raquel since, so Cora Jade's hair must be very unhappy about it. That being said, Mandy doing her typical I'm the greatest, here's my, poolside promo shoot. And I'm like, all right, cool. That's what we're going to get from Mandy Rose tonight. But wait, there's more. We then get unknown, as I have them in my notes, 2-4-5-6-3-2-5-7 versus Cameron Grimes. This actually turns out to be Bobby Stevenson, who's now under another name that they're not using Bobby Stevenson. I want to say it was like Camp or something. Or Kemp. They didn't put a lower third on there, so I don't know what his name was. Anyways, he quickly gets beaten by Cameron Grimes, but he had a little bit of a showing in here where he showed that he was a bit of an amateur wrestler. It was nice. But quickly gets a cave in for his troubles, and Cameron Grimes gets the win. However, he was being scouted by Malcolm Bivens. And Cody, I think you had a point about Malcolm Bivens being out there for that you think he might be trying to replace Hachiman?
Yeah, I mean, they've got the opening with Hachiman, and I mentioned it last week that I thought that look from Bivens almost gave me the idea that Roddy might be on his way out. As we see later, we got like a eulogy t-shirt for Roddy as well. So who knows what's happening with Roddy Strong right now, but you got Bivens out here possibly looking to scout and recruit talent, and watching what Stevenson did in the ring by whatever his name was tonight. I didn't catch it. I feel like it might have been shown on screen, but this is when I was struggling to stay awake. So Grimes made quick work out of it. It's basically a match to just remind us that Grimes is Grimes and what he can do again since he's been off TV for a couple weeks. But I'm interested to see. I really like what they're doing with the Diamond Mine, and even if it is Diamond Mine being a mini performance center where they bring people in, train them up, and then as they move on, they keep recruiting and bring people in. I'd be up for a stable like that where they're just consistently bringing through talent, and somewhere down the line, like, look at this resume of all of these talented people we've been through.
Yeah, I mean, and having Malcolm Bivens as a mic man for people who are learning the business and don't know what's going on, and letting them learn from Malcolm Bivens is absolutely an amazing idea. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't have to be like Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar where they never talk. Like, you want to get these guys trained in, and Malcolm's the perfect guy to make them feel like a big deal, because Malcolm can sell pretty much he can't sell anything, which is his gimmick, that he tries to think like he can sell anything to anybody. I do remember the Diamond Mine NFTs that he was trying to sell, the invisible NFT. But yeah, no, I love Malcolm Bivens. I love the idea of him potentially going ahead and, recruiting more people for the Diamond Mine. That's great. Bobby says he was great to chat with you people, but he's going to be heading to bed. Keep kicking ass on NXT. Well, thank you, and you have a wonderful night as well. We enjoyed having you here. We'll hope to see you next week, hopefully on a better episode of NXT. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit here. Like, we praise NXT all the time for being a wonderful show and having great pacing. It was an off week for them. And maybe that's a bad off week considering the news that came out earlier today. That being said, that news isn't what threw off, in my mind, the show this week. Sean Cena does ask, though, is Roddy on his way out of NXT or out of the company? I don't think he's really on his way out of either. I think he's out of his way out of Diamond Mine, potentially. But I don't see him leaving NXT. And if he does leave NXT, I see him leaving NXT for the main roster more than out of the company. I think he's the one member of the Undisputed Era who's more than happy to sit back and continue just being Roddy Strong in NXT and making money and having matches and doing his thing in Florida and not having to travel and be part of the Undisputed Era or whatever they're calling themselves in AEW. I don't know what it is in AEW.
Okay.
We then had Joe Gacy talk and with Harlan behind him, talking about how they're in the play-in match for the Dusty Classic, and I was very excited because he then said their opponents were Idris Enofe and Malcolm and Malik Blade, and I was like, yes, I got one right. Harlan then quickly gets disqualified for not following the referee's 5 count, and while I don't hate the finish, I kind of like it, but I'm going to let you guys talk about it first, and then I'm going to say the things that I liked about it. We'll start with Cody.
We're talking the tag match here specifically.
Yes, the Harlan and Gacy versus Blade match.
I've been very, very highly on the board with the Joe Gacy stuff up until this point, and this match. I mean, the Harlan stuff. The jury's still out on Harlan as a whole for me. He hasn't looked very crisp or very specifically dominant as a performer. Obviously they're making him dominant in story, but he doesn't look like he's that dominant over the people that he's supposedly beating up every week. Joe Gacy, that smirk, like smug grin that he always has on his face is just the kind of thing that you want to wipe off a guy's face in as hard of a way as possible. We talked about this last week. I know when they announced that they were going to have this play-in match, and I know you thought it was going to be Malik and Enofe taking the fall on it, though, to put Joe and Harlan in the tag tournament. Mm-hmm. And so it was an interesting turn of events and a nice little surprise for Blade and Enofe to have the win, be it by DQ. But this could play out a number of different ways that I might be interested in seeing. Namely, if Enofe and Blade go deep into the tournament, and then you have Gacy and Harlan come around and say, you're only here because you couldn't beat us straight up, or, we gave you this opportunity, you should be thankful for that, or anything along those lines. If Malik Blade and Idris Enofe end up winning this tournament, it could play into a very long-term story with Joe Gacy and his, equal opportunity, whatever we want to call it at this point. The match itself was nothing, really, and that was a lot of the show. Was nothing. You had some story progression, but nothing felt like it just was must see. Like I said earlier.
Astrid.
Yeah, I feel like Cody basically said everything. He's like, I didn't like the match. It's just like, yeah, I was surprised by the result, but I feel like later is gonna tie up to the way that Gacy speaks about diversity and the equal opportunity thing. So that's one of the options that I was thinking, because on the way out, he's smiling with Harlan next to him while Malik and Idris are just celebrating. So just that was the part I was not expecting, of course, but it's it'll play out how it'll play out. It's just I don't hate it, but I don't love the Gacy Harlan stuff, I guess, because of everything. But overall, just to see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, and like I said, I wholeheartedly agree with everything. Cody definitely hit on a bunch of the points that I was going to hit on. I don't love the finish because it means that Joe Gacy didn't get the win and they're not going to be in the tournament, which I think would have been really beneficial to them. However, losing by disqualification with this big monster guy who can't seem to get his stuff under control, and Gacy just laughing and being like, I don't care. I'm just going to release the Kraken and just let it do its damage. And whatever happens, happens. I love that part of Gacy. It makes Gacy better while making Harlan seem worse. And while it doesn't work for the whole act, if Harlan's not a long-term portion of this act, it's just going to make Gacy better and better as we go. So I'm very excited to see what goes on from this. And in our chat, we do have Cody saying it was Damon Kemp was the name that they gave to Bobby Stevenson. And so thank you, Cody, for going ahead and getting us that information. I greatly appreciate it.
I do want to say, though, with the Gacy stuff here with Harland, it's starting to feel like they are lacking a direction. Like, they obviously have a story they want to tell of what's going on with Gacy and Harland, but they're just kind of roaming the locker room right now, that they don't have any one person that's trying to stand up against them. They beat up on Andre Chase. They've beat up on Brian Kendrick. They beat up now on Inoue and Blade. They've beat up on a couple different people since Gacy started loosing Harland on the locker room. And, like, you would have thought that maybe Andre Chase and his tag partner would come back and, actually have a proper match with them, or that we'd revisit or come back to Brian Kendrick at some point here. But it just feels like they're just roaming around with no solid story direction. And I think they really need to have a proper foil for them, like a hero step up and try and stop this. Even if they are just to get beat down and destroyed by Harland and fail, and then somebody else has to come forward. They need a consistent nemesis for a consistent time.
My idea for this, and tell me I'm crazy because I think I probably am with this one. What about Odyssey Jones?
Yeah.
Like, I think that would be a great foil for Harland, because you sick Harland and all the small guys and whatnot, and Odyssey Jones is everything that Gacy would love Odyssey, because he fits in so much of that criteria about diversity and being different and loving people and all that stuff. And, Odyssey's the big, happy, smiling guy, doing the dance and everything else. And he's great. And I love Odyssey Jones. But he's also big enough that Harland's not going to manhandle him. So I feel like he's that perfect person to get Harland to that next level if Harland can manhandle Odyssey Jones.
I know we can get off on these tangents about fantasy booking here, but let me throw one at you.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else where we can still have Joe Gacy doing the majority of the talking and whatnot, but also someone who matches up very well with Harland in a lot of different ways, but can play that role of holding his own while still taking the L at the end of the day, in Dexter Lumis.
Mm-hmm. I could be interested for that too.
Just, he accidentally gets bumped the wrong way by Harland, ends up standing up to him. They fight it out for a few weeks in a long-term story with Gacy doing all of the talking back and forth and, trying to convince Lumis that he's another misunderstood monster just like Harland.
And a divorce with Indy.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here and going to advocate for breaking up Index. I know Astrid will probably leave the show if that's what we suggest. But no, I like the idea. That's a great idea. Like I said, I'm just trying to find people. And like I said, I hadn't thought about him. But yeah, I think, So we have, Bobby brings up a good person, and we have to talk about him anyways. What about Von Wagner? Von would be great if Von were a babyface. But they turned Von heel. In a pretty abrupt way with Kyle O'Reilly, and then, attacking Andre Chase's student, and then attacking the fans last week to the point where he got suspended and fined. And then by the end of the show, the suspension's over and the fine's been paid. Now, I went out there and asked him, like, there's only two obvious answers for who would have done that. And it's one less likely, one way more likely. And it was, is it Malcolm Bivens, a lot less likely, but possible? Or is it Robert Stone, who's been scouting Von Wagner for a few weeks and makes a whole lot of sense? And Cody rightly says, well, it's obviously got to be Robert Stone. And I agree. I don't know if I would want Von in that match, though, because Von seems too green in all the same ways that Harland is, that I don't know it would work. Like, Odyssey Jones is green too, but he's so much bigger around that I think it makes it a little bit better for Harland in that respect. Whereas Von Wagner just doesn't fit in so many ways. And like I said, like Cody has the right answer. I mean, it's Dexter Lumis is the perfect answer for this whole thing.
Yeah, but Von Wagner, since we're on the story of it there, the Robert Stone story is basically writing itself. Robert Stone has nobody left for him in NXT. Taya Valkyrie's gone. You have Aaliyah's gone. You have Jessie Kamea's gone. You have everybody
Don't get
he's
close
managed.
to him. It's a curse.
Everybody who he's managed is gone, but was also a loser the entire time they were with him. So now he's trying to find himself somebody who can be a winner, and even if it is somebody as out there and uncontrollable as what Von Wagner has become since turning on Kyle, Robert will do whatever it has to do to prove the Robert Stone brand is a winning brand.
I mean, it's, it's something. They're giving these two guys something. Robert Stone can at least talk for Vaughn, so Vaughn doesn't have to talk for himself, which will make Vaughn that much better because talking's definitely not his strong suit.
I think it could make for an very interesting, like, powerful comedy duo, though, with Robert and Vaughn trying to communicate with each other and just having, like, a whole lot of lack of communication, or Robert trying to tell Vaughn what to do and Vaughn being a complete contrarian and doing the exact opposite of what Robert tells him.
Like I said, I'm in for it because it's something different, and at least they're trying something and they're giving characters character and direction. Like, I don't care if I love things or hate things. Give me distinct characters with a direction, and I'm happy. And speaking of distinct characters and a direction, and I'm happy, we have Tony D'Angelo back on our screen again. For Tony D'Angelo. Oh,
wait. I don't. Maybe I missed it when you talked about it after an Opium Blade, the Imperium hype video.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Imperium. They're here, and Walter has his last match in NXT UK next week, and then he's coming to either NXT proper or the main roster.
Yeah.
I mean, he's leaving NXT UK. He's going one of the two places. Like, he's not leaving the company.
Yeah, and the whole Matt is Sacred promo, high res promo package that they ran through after the other tag match finished.
Yeah,
and then we get to Tony D.
I honestly, I didn't write it down because honestly, I think I nodded off during the promo. I'll be on again, like all of us. We're all a bit tired. I did Turnbuckle Talk earlier today. It was a whole lot of fun. Go check that out here on the Love Wrestling channels. It's great to do Turnbuckle Talk. Carl's a wonderful person, and it was great for him to bring me on. But yes, we had Tony D versus Pete Dunne in the crowbar on a pole match. The crowbar was put lengthwise, which I thought was weird, and it quickly didn't stay where it was supposed to stay. It ended up hung from one side, and that definitely turned the match around. There were so many spots where Pete Dunne's like, "I'm in position to get the crowbar, but I'm like 20 minutes too early to get the crowbar, so I'm just gonna stand here." And I'm like, oh, like, that was the only thing that went wrong with this whole match, is that, like, when the crowbar went down, Pete Dunne was like in position, and Tony was like, well, I don't have to worry because Pete Dunne's got to climb like 6 more things, and he doesn't realize the crowbars come loose. Tony D'Angelo's biggest fan in here is obviously Cody, so we're going to go to Cody and have him talk lovingly about Mr. D'Angelo.
I mean, Tony D he's great at what he's doing in the ring and in his character work. I have no faults there. This match, other than the fact that it was a crowbar on a pole match, and as hopeful as I was that NXT could do justice to the on a pole match, they really didn't. It was just as bad as every other on a pole match I've watched. The match outside of the fact of it being on a pole was really well done. I did pick up and mention to you guys the point where obviously they swapped out a real crowbar for the prop crowbar, because as soon as they got it down, they were taking hard swings, making sure people could hear the thud as it hit the mat, smoking metal on the poles in and out of the ring. And then Tony goes down with it in his hand and just casually slips it under the ring. And then the next time you see it after Pete retrieves it from under the ring is when they actually start hitting each other with it and actually completing moves. Again, like I know I mentioned it on the Hard to Kill with Astrid and Mel last weekend. Little things like that where the camera specifically picks up something that they probably shouldn't have really just hurt the match as a whole for me. And it's nothing to do with the wrestlers themselves. It's purely on the production aspect, and it hurts as a fan to pick up on those things and get taken out of the match in such a way. But Tony and Pete have a ton of chemistry. The moves they pulled off once they had that crowbar, the constant attacks on Pete's wrist, the attempts by Pete to basically take Tony's head off multiple times, and then ultimately it's Tony who clocks him across the side of the head with it for the finish. Tony D is going places. Tony D is clearly a big star in this company, that they give him a win over a top guy like a Pete Dunne that they haven't given to many of the other guys. Even LA Knight right now doesn't have a big win over a big name yet. That Tony D as Braun Breaker's first challenger, why not?
Yeah. Astrid?
Yeah, overall, I like the match. It's just like the part with the timing and the pole, just like it was so awkward at first. I'm just like, it's like what happened with like the poker thing in the ring. We're like looking at it, like when they first advertised it, you're thinking, oh, this is not gonna go off well, and it wasn't so bad as we thought it would be. But tonight, it's just like, I'm like, they could have done a lot better with it. But overall, like Cody was saying, they have chemistry, and you could see it, like the back and forth between them was really well done. I overall liked it, but I just like those spots with the crowbar, just like, okay. But just like I could have done a match, I guess, without the crowbar, but not on a pole at least somehow. But I'm like, I didn't like it that. I liked it, but it could have been done a little bit better, at least, in my opinion.
Yeah, and everybody here has said everything there is to say about this match. Tony D is a star in the making. I'll continue weekly eating crow for ever thinking that this Tony D'Angelo character wouldn't work. I was wrong to the ends of the earth. It's fantastic, and he's delightful. And Pete Dunne gave him as much as Ciampa gave to Braun Breaker, and as much as AJ gave to Grayson. And it's so wonderful to see these guys seeing something in these. And it's almost like you can see these guys picking them. You're like, I can see Ciampa picking a guy like Braun Breaker and being like, yeah, I'll put him over. He's the one I want to have beat me. And I can see Pete Dunne seeing Tony D'Angelo and going, yeah, that's the one. Like, if I got to choose one of these guys, let me have him. I can make something out of him. And then AJ being given the choice, and he's like, give me the one that can talk. That's green. Like, give me the kid who's young and doesn't really have all the in-ring stuff perfectly down pat. Give me that guy, and I'll make him a star.
Because, I would say the same thing, actually, with Kyle picking out Von Wagner, too.
Yeah, I was thinking Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle and Wagner. Like, they've done such a great job of utilizing the veterans to make the 2.0 guys look fantastic. And I'm excited to see where this keeps going, because we're going to see these veterans continue to put over different 2.0 guys as we keep going. We have a couple comments in here from Bobby talking about, different matches he wants to see. We have Dakota Kai versus Mandy Rose. Would definitely want to see that. He wants to see Ginny show up in NXT 2.0. If Walter's coming to NXT, there's a good chance Ginny's coming too. Just say it. I mean, I have no confirmed rumors on that one, but I don't think he's leaving the UK without his girl. Let's just put it that way.
You got the scoop tonight.
I have no scoops. I have no proof, no scoops, no nothing. He also wants to see Kaylee Ray versus Mandy Rose, and this is something I think that is coming soon. And I think this is Mandy's next challenge, like next big challenge. And I think it comes at WrestleMania weekend type-y thing, where she's going up against KLR. Next, speaking of women's wrestling, we got the Persian indie segment backstage with Wendy Chu sleeping on the bench, and then all of a sudden getting very excited and getting up and getting ready for the match. And Indy and Persia are not sure what to do with her.
Sorry, I forgot my onesie.
I will tell you.
Or should I just put my hands in my pockets? Because apparently it's the same thing.
I wasn't going to bring up the entirety of this, but I was going to say that Wendy Chu has definitely split the Love Wrestling crew because of the comparisons to Orange Cassidy.
I mean, did she split the whole crew, or did she just put me on an island?
No, I'm on the island with you, because I was like, apparently nihilism is. I've honestly, other than in WandaVision, I've never heard the word nihilism, so I have no idea what it means. So
It doesn't mean what I think they used it to mean. I had to actually look it up myself.
Okay, cool. But basically, I went with the whole thing of if somebody tells me that I have to love something that I don't want to like even consider, like if you tell me I have to like something because I like something else, I'm just going to tell you to go take whatever you're telling me I have to like and screw.
Yeah, no, that's contrary.
I'm over here eating popcorn, reading everything.
Nihilism is the rejection of all religious and moral principles and the belief that life is meaningless.
Yeah, no, life is definitely not meaningless. And if you're in that space, please reach out to one of us and make sure that you're somebody to talk to, because life is precious and every life matters and there's always somebody to talk to. That being said, we had this wonderful backstage promo with Indy, Persia, and Wendy, where Wendy's in her onesie, and I'm like, is she really going to like be in the onesie for the match? Yep, she is. But first, Toxic Attraction. Yes.
Mandy and Toxic, with Mandy in an even tinier bikini than the first promo.
I did like, though, that we've definitely cleared up that Toxic Attraction was pulled from the show a couple weeks ago because of definite COVID exposure. Like, we're being pretty clear with it, considering they're getting a voiceover that they obviously did at home on their cell phones, while Mandy's getting the only person with actual, like, new footage shot for this whole promo segment. But they've definitely figured out what they want to do with Mandy. They want to put Mandy in bikinis, have her poolside or backstage with, a title belt, and go, look at our champion. And as she says, she makes the title look good. She does. I can't disagree with her. Toxic Attraction says that the thirst has never been, more than right now with Toxic Attraction and all the gold. I can't disagree with them. I love that they're still playing up to this whole the guys with the ghosting. I think that they need to play that up more once Gigi and JC Jane get back. That they need to pick that back up again, because they did it a couple weeks where they did it once with Mello and Trick,
and once with Marcel,
and then once with
Fabian.
Imperium. Yeah, with Marcel and Fabian from Imperium, and those are the only two times that I remember it. And they're kind of, in and out. Like, I would love to see them, like, with more interaction with these guys and then letting them drop to the wayside. I think that could be interesting.
Just crossovers where they kind of have that flirting gaze at the guys as they walk by them, where the guys are basically drooling over them and then they never cross paths again.
So are they going to put JBBJ and then make Casey Square jealous? Is that how it goes now?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. It's very possible. I also like the idea that if you do it with Trick Mello and with Imperium, if you keep, and like, you can play those two up against each other as like two heels teams fighting each other by having the girls kind of get in the middle. And you have this like group of champions kind of playing around in that whole thing too, because you have Mandy with the women's championship and the women's tag team titles and the men's tag team titles and the North American champion, and then Trick Williams. Trick needs to be carrying around that cruiserweight title, by the way. Like, I know apparently Mello's just decided that he's not bringing it around, and Cody said that Mello must have forgot his second belt. I just want to see Trick carrying around that second title just so he pretends like he's a champion, just for the sheer fun of it, because I think it'd be hysterical. We then get the Persia, Indy, and Wendy match, and I'm going to let Astrid go ahead and talk a little bit about this.
It was interesting, like seeing. I like seeing Wendy in the corner, just like laying down until she gets tagged in, and even having the pillow and like her tumbler and everything. I'm like, this is me. I'm like, how do they find me as a wrestler now with like my peaches or those with like sweatpants? But I love when she was tagged in, because instead of doing the Matrix move, she just stretched out, and it's just like it worked out for her gimmick. And I like how I didn't think about it, but like going from Mei Ying to this is like such a drastic change. But she did both of them so well. There's such different characters, but they all work for her, which it's the part that I love the most about it. But I just like, it was interesting seeing her with the ladies and the way she was laying on the mat while the girls were wrestling, just like basically napping.
She was laying on the top turnbuckle too at one point.
Yeah.
That was after she tagged out.
Yeah.
She was on the bottom, laying like with her head on the bottom turnbuckle, and then she tagged in, did her stuff, then tagged out and climbed up on the top turnbuckle to wait out the last of the match.
Yeah, I mean, just the balance. I've never been in the ring, but the balance to have a match going on, and to have her like lying on the top rope, like with her head on the turnbuckle, it's unbelievable. Sorry, Ashton. I apologize for interrupting you.
No, but I like also seeing Amari in the ring because the first time I think we see her like in part of the NXT crew at least, and I'm like, it wasn't a bad showing for her either. I just like obviously it was more than anything Wendy. It was the highlight for her by having like Persia and Indy and Wendy win the match. I think it was really nice to like seeing Wendy like this at least as a like napping whenever she could or laying on the mat. Things like that, the little things that she did, I loved it. And like wrestling in a onesie, I never thought I'll see that in wrestling. I'm like, obviously at first for probably all of us, but still, it was pretty fun for me. I'm like, I like how fun it was for them through the match. And I like how at least now they got the KC squared entrance. Like, I think like nicely done at least. I feel like I liked it better this week than the other weeks they did it. So
yeah,
it was, and then having Amari like waiting for them in the middle and then all three of them at the beginning like that. I like that too. But like the detailing, it was really well done. And Indy like winning the match, but like showing off the ring as well when she was wrestling too towards the camera. So overall, I liked it. But I don't know what you guys thought of, aside from the Wendy stuff, of course.
Cody,
I enjoyed it. It was fun. Like I said, the Wendy stuff, I don't have the same comparison many in our community apparently do, but sleeping on the apron, pausing mid like hot tag as she's like beating up who was it was Amari, I think, that she was taking down, right? Pausing to go to the turnbuckle and grab her tumbler and take a sip of water as she's waiting for Amari to stand back up again. I said it to us, I was like, Wendy's getting the pin here, isn't she? And then unfortunately she didn't, but it definitely felt like that, where she was going to just come in after sleeping on the apron the entire time, hit a couple big moves, and then pin and get the win for her team. I don't know how well this gimmick will work in singles action for her, but as a tag team person, if she gets a tag team partner of, I don't even know who, maybe Persia turns on Indy to join Wendy because she's impressed by what Wendy did tonight. Maybe she gets somebody else. I don't know. I think this could be really, really fun. This could be a Jesse and Festus style of tag team where she's the Festus who's like out of it on the apron until she gets in the ring.
Gravy.
Oh my God.
Sorry, I know the big LG probably wants us to forget that portion of his life ever existed, but
I mean, one of the things I liked about this match was, I'll be honest, Persia's sit-out powerbomb to little itty-bitty Casey Catanzaro is one of my favorite things of the year in wrestling so far. Like, absolutely, like, oh, Casey, poor Casey on that powerbomb. Like, perfectly done powerbomb, but it just looked like it hurt like hell because she's so tiny compared to Persia. Wendy is a delight. She absolutely cannot work in singles. Like, there's no way that gimmick works in singles wrestling. It has to be a tag team gimmick. I'm thinking Tiffany Stratton.
That would be so weird.
I know it would be weird, but like, I kind of like it.
Zoe Stark?
Maybe Zoe Stark.
Maybe that he pays Wendy to help out Tiffany.
Can we put Wendy and Io together?
I mean, it'd probably be better than Io and Zoe. It'd be better than Io and Zoe. Because at least instead of trying to make friends with her, she'd just sleep. Like,
she's like, I'll do the work for us.
Io fight. Io can fight. I'll sleep. Like, I mean,
Io does all the work and then wakes Wendy up to tag her into the ring, and Wendy comes in and gets the pin.
Yeah, sure. Sounds fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
We also have a burgeoning romance because they showed JBBJ backstage, to which Cody said romance angle, and I go, ugh, I hope not.
But Asher brings up a good point, because it could be an interesting way to keep playing that toxic attraction thing if you actually have JBBJ win over KC Squared and get like an actual date with them or something, and then have them like staring at JC and Gigi as they go by and flirt with them kind of thing, and then KC Squared get mad at them and go and attack toxic attraction for, whatever.
Yeah, no, I didn't think about it, but it totally works. Like, it totally makes sense that, they start, the JBBJ and the KC Squared, girls, they start hitting it off and there's something going on. And then all of a sudden, Toxic Attraction has to face the girls in a tag team title match. And they decide, well, what better way to get our advantage than by going ahead and, putting them on the back foot by flirting with their boyfriends. Like, it makes perfect sense. We then had MSK staring at the Dusty Cup. And they were talking about, re-winning the title, and Shaman Riddle talking about the comeback is better than the setbacks or something like that. We do have Bobby just piping in real quick saying, I want to see Persia wrestling in singles matches. I mean, Persia and Wendy, like Cody was saying, where Persia does more of these handicap matches that she constantly tries to book herself into anyways, would make a whole lot of sense.
I think I said it last week. I think we're heading to Persia versus Indy in the near future. I think those two are they're going to have some kind of falling out where Persia's just mad at Indy for putting Dexter ahead of the team, and she's going to possibly turn heel on her, or maybe Indy turns heel on Persia. I don't know, but I definitely see that team falling apart.
Yeah, I do too. I wholeheartedly agree. While MSK is backstage talking about all the different teams in the Dusty Cup and trying to figure out how to say the Creed brothers, because they don't know which version to call them. Are they the Brothers Creed, or the Creed Brothers, or the Creed Diamond Mine, or the Diamond Creed Mine, or all that kind of stuff. Dakota comes up.
Diamond Mine?
They were saying all kinds of weird combinations, and I try not to understand MSK half the time anyways. But then Dakota comes up, and she's talking to... I thought she was talking to the Cup. I don't think she was ever actually talking to MSK, but she's talking to the Cup, and she talks about how winning the Dusty Cup puts a divide between best friends. And I do love that the line coming from Nash Carter after that was, get that out of here. We don't want that anywhere near us, I think it was. Or
get that evil out of here.
Yeah, get that evil out.
I don't put that evil on us.
I literally put it in the Slack chat and then forgot it. Don't you put that evil on us.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was a fantastic line. It was just absolutely great.
Well, she was muttering about having won it, like we had won that or something, and then she's like, success divides friendships, and that's when MSK is like, don't you put that evil on us.
Yeah, but she also said nothing defines friendship more than success, and it looks like she was always like, we won it, and always going like that. And I'm like,
she's Smeagol. She's Smeagol, in the Cup is the ring. For all of my Lord of the Rings fans.
Yes.
Since Riddle lost the tag belts, do we think we see more of him with MSK? No, I honestly don't. I think the joke was to get to the Matt Riddle versus Imperium match to get a 3 versus 3, and to potentially have Matt Riddle versus Walter on the main roster.
With them potentially wanting NXT to not be on its own, as I read today, that a lot of these changes backstage with NXT are leading to them wanting the NXT storylines to be in line with main roster storylines. I think if and when MSK gets called up, we might get back to them eventually, but not anytime in NXT.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it's MSK going up, this story can definitely continues in some form or fashion at some point in the near future. If it means Riddle continuously coming back down, I don't think so, because Riddle's about to have himself what I call a main level feud, a main event style feud. Him versus Randy, which is coming for Mania, is going to be a big time story for him, and it's going to be a jumping off point where I think coming out of Mania, he's going to be in a short list for potential championship opponents for Big E, Bobby Lashley. I think Big E or Bobby Lashley is probably the Raw champion coming out of Mania. Maybe Brock Lesnar, but I think Brock loses it whoever he wrestles at Mania. What do you guys think about that? Do you guys think that that's where Riddle's headed?
I don't know if it's that high up. I think it's heading more towards Riddle and a mid-card title.
Ashford?
Yeah, I feel like it'll be like, it doesn't have to be like not a mid-card, but I know like having Randy involved in there, it already makes it like a higher up level feud for me, especially with the attention like that Randy has been getting lately. His storyline and his characters have been really well done. and I feel like people have been loving Randy now more than before. So I feel like it keeps the attention on Riddle at the same time.
Yeah. We then had Kaylee Ray coming through the backstage area and seeing all the camera stuff set up and asking what it was for, and being told it was the what was left over from the Mandy Rose photo shoot for her championship celebration. To which Kaylee Ray says, "Oh, is that so?" and destroys everything. I mean, it would have made more of a point if she had destroyed it before the photo shoot, but okay, after works too. So she goes ahead and destroys a whole bunch of equipment and breaks the backdrop, and I think she broke a camera. I like the Rage Room Kaylee Ray. I mean, I just kind of want her in the ring. Like I'm cool with all the promos and the Rage Room stuff, but get her in the ring fighting people. That's where she excels, and that's where she needs to be.
There was a very brief Solo Sikoa promo in here too.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
I literally have about 60 promos written down on this list, and apparently I still missed a few of them. We then had my entire notes for the next match: Solo versus Boa, comma, yawn, comma, count out.
Yeah. Comma continues after the break. Comma.
Sounds about right.
No,
fireball.
No, I didn't bother writing anything about the fireball. I didn't bother writing anything about it fighting all the way backstage. I literally stopped at count out, didn't give a shit anymore. Like, I love Solo Sikoa. I think he's great. He needs some more seasoning. He needs a proper feud. This is not what he needs. This is bad for him. It's good for Boa. I don't care about Boa. I will continue to rail against Boa solely because I just don't care. So
I'm gonna jump back though, because we kind of glazed over the KLR brief little segment there.
Sorry.
We mentioned KLR and Mandy earlier when Bobby said that that's the match he wanted to see. And you mentioned Mania. We're still 3 full months away from WrestleMania at this point. I don't think this is our Mania feud for Mandy. I think this is potentially our Rumble weekend feud or something in a February feud. I don't think NXT is going that far in advance right now to try planning Kaylee and Mandy 3 months ahead of time. I think we're going to start building, and it's either going to be our next takeover, which will probably either be end of January or into February sometime, or it's going to be something that's just going to fall on like one of these special shows like New Year's Evil.
I mean, it's very. I only say Mania weekend because I can see Mandy cheating to win sometime between middle of February, beginning of March, and then that building that 6 weeks to make, because we got to remember that April 3rd is Mania weekend. So the Tuesday,
April 10th, I thought.
No, I had it wrong. I had accidentally had the days up for WrestleMania 37 during Turnbuckle Talk.
Yeah,
it's
that's
WrestleMania.
where I heard it was you and Carl talking about it.
Yeah, it was me and Carl. Yeah. It's the 2nd and the 3rd for Mania, which is why the ROH show's on April 1st, which is April Fool's Day. Which is why Carl's very hopeful that show's not just a joke. But yeah, no. I think we're talking the end of March for a takeover, like a special Tuesday night takeover type thing for NXT. And I mean, I think you can get there. I think if you do a match where Toxic Attraction helps Mandy Rose cheat to win come the end of February, that you can get this thing all the way towards Mania weekend for Kaylee Ray winning against Mandy Rose at that point.
Maybe. If it is going that far, you have to have some other feud in between, because it feels wrong in your development to have those two ladies tied up in the title so long when you're trying to bring up your other ladies that are still developing, like your Ivy Niles and your Cora Jades and your Zoe Starks and your Casey Squared, and there's so many other women involved and doing good things right now that it's really hard for me to foresee them taking 3 months tying up one woman in the title picture.
But I think you can rotate Mandy and Kaylee Ray going through the competition, like all these other women, to keep getting to each other. Like Mandy can keep throwing roadblock after roadblock in front of Kaylee Ray to get her to that point. Because I don't see Mandy wrestling week in and week out. I see Mandy kind of, being that chicken heel who's going to go ahead and make it roadblock. So it's like you have to take on, Cora Jade, and then you have to take on Cora Jade and Ivy Nile in a triple threat match. Or you have to take on Toxic Attraction in a 2-on-1 handicap match.
I mean, Io wanted her rematch too.
Io wants her rematch. Like, I agree. Like, there's a ton you can do in between. I'm just saying, like, the main top of the card feud, I think, is going to be Kaylee Ray continuously coming after Mandy. She doesn't necessarily have to be in the feud the whole time, but that's where Kaylee Ray's focus is. And you can kind of set Mandy on that path for Mania weekend. It doesn't need to happen right, because I don't see them getting in a match until probably mid-February. Like, I don't see them actually getting into that match until about that. But you never know. Like, we could both be right. We could both be wrong, and they might be doing this match in 2 weeks and then done and over with.
No.
I mean, who knows? Like, with the way things change, and God forbid, Kaylee Ray may not be with the company by the time Mania comes around. Like, God, I hope I'm wrong, but what if the worst should happen? We just want to, I put up the comment, but I want to say, Evan, thank you for checking in. We are doing well. We hope you are as well. I know that you said the last time that you didn't really enjoy NXT, but I'm glad that you came in and checked in with us again. We really appreciate that. Bobby, we're going to get to this point in just a moment, because that's coming up in just a few minutes. So we will go ahead and answer this question in just a little while. Did anybody have anything more on the Fireball, the Solo Sikoa versus Boa stuff? Is there anything we have to talk about?
I really want to like Solo, but I can't invest in Solo as long as it means I have to watch Boa.
Thank you. Okay, I'm on the same page. Like, there's nothing wrong with Solo Sikoa in any of the things he's doing. It's just that he's being tied up with this bottom tier Boa. And I'm like, I can't. Like, I can't get invested if he were working with Cameron Grimes, if he were working with AJ Styles, if he were working with anybody who's remotely on his level, Dexter Lumis, Carmelo Hayes, LA Knight.
No, I haven't been a Boa fan at all.
No, I'm talking about Solo Sikoa.
But I'm just going to throw out these supernatural gimmicks in WWE right now. They're all the same, and they're becoming way too predictable. That I love a audience backstage brawl as much as the next person, but the entire time of this brawl between Solo and Boa, all I could think is, "Okay, where is Boa going to disappear and come back with face paint?" And I don't care about Boa and his face paint. I don't care about Boa as a wrestler right now. It's terrible to say I love wrestling, but I don't love Boa. Okay, that's all.
You gotta love both, okay?
We don't have to.
And when it actually happened, it was even worse than I was expecting. I thought, when he got pushed through the curtain at ringside, that he was going to disappear for 5 seconds, and when Solo went after him, Boa was going to show up with face paint magically somehow. Or when he got thrown over the back there, that he was just going to pop up in face paint as like a cut scene, or like a cut from one scene to the next. Instead, we get a goddamn fireball. Like, I don't care. Where the hell is this fireball coming from? I love the supernatural stuff when it's done fun. I fully enjoy the Decay stuff and the Su Yung stuff and Impact right now. Loved the Undertaker and Kane back in the day, but WWE has become very, very predictable in what they're doing, whether it's Demon Finn, whether it's Boa and the whole Mei Ying stuff, whether it's The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, whether it's Alexa and Lily, just all of it is just the same thing rewashed over and over. And I don't want that. I want creativity in my storytelling, and that's not what I'm getting when it comes to Supernatural WWE.
Yeah, The Fiend was doing really good with all of this until right after wrestling John Cena at WrestleMania. And it seemed like everything for him kind of fell off the cliff after the Firefly Funhouse. Because it seemed like they stopped listening to him And he was like, I have all these creative fluids that I need to get out and these ideas I need to get out. And they were like, that's fine. We're going to have you do a swamp fight with Braun. And he was like, I don't want to. They're like, but we need you to do it. And he's like, fine. And he tried to do it, and it was bad. It was very bad. That being said, the Firefly Funhouse was fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it was sheer genius, that whole thing. And props to John Cena for being willing to let his career be eviscerated by Bray Wyatt to do it. I mean, it didn't amount to much in the end, but at least he did it.
Yeah. And we've already spent longer talking about Boa than Boa spent in the ring.
We then had a great AJ feud where he obviously wasn't watching the match that was on before his promo, because those two guys had passion, and I'm like, it was Boa versus Solo Sikoa. Talking about the wrong match, AJ. He talked about how passion is great and that's everything, but Grayson Waller doesn't have it, and Grayson Waller is all about the likes and the swipes and all this crap. And I'm just like, all right, cool. Can we get to the match now? Like, I like AJ, but at this point, like you guys, I was over the show and I just wanted it to end. And I'm like, just get me to the main event. I don't want to hear any more talking. That being said, my favorite person.
We're talking.
My favorite person in the world on NXT then shows up, finally making it to the arena, almost 3/4 of the way through the show. We have a North American unification match package, and then Mello and Trick show up in a delightful car, and then they hand the guy the keys. Key thing to this, they hand the keys to the guy at the door. They then go into the ring.
They said, keep it close.
Yes, keep it close. And we're going to remember that he's supposed to keep it close. Mind you, the car didn't move, but remind you, we're just going to, keep it close. We then get to the ring with these two gentlemen, and they cut the worst promo that I've ever heard Carmelo Hayes cut. Trick Williams talks nonsense for a while. They take a Roddy Strong shirt that Carmelo Hayes had made by an artist for his entrance gear for the New Year's Evil show that I thought they were going to put on the ground so that they could pour the soda on top of it, because he was going to pour one out for Roderick Strong's career. And there was nothing in the bottle, which I'm like, great, that's even dumber. And then he said something about piss. And I'm like, Carmelo, you're losing me here, buddy. I'm trying to be with you, but you're losing me. He then jumped around and danced around talking about how he's the A champion, and I didn't care anymore. And then they went to either commercial or another video package or something.
It was AJ's music cut them off, and then they went to commercial.
Okay. Oh yes, they had the ships passing in the night.
Yeah, Mello's music started, and they started celebrating before leaving the ring, and then AJ's music hit, and Trick and Mello passed AJ. I am going to say I didn't dislike this promo. There was moments in this promo that I really did appreciate. There was the lines about, the numbers don't lie and Mello don't miss. There was also the one where Mello, he said something about like Mello doesn't pass the ball, and Trick took offense to it. Like, what? He's like, it's just a saying. He's like, okay, talk your talk. But it was like a neat little kind of hiccup there between the two of them where Trick's like, what do you mean you don't pass? Like, am I not getting my shot with the ball at some point here? You're not going to let me run with it? It was so subtle, but it was something that they can revisit a little bit later if they want to try and break Trick off on his own to go after these titles or turn on Mello. That it's like, I came in to help you, but you're not doing anything to help me, so it's time to put me first. And the part with the pouring one out, it was, again, I didn't quote it verbatim or write down the verbatim quote, but it was, we're going to pour one out and piss on this or something. But then he went to pour the bottle and there was nothing in it. And I almost wanted to think that, like, he was too cheap to actually pour one out for Roddy, and that's why the bottle was empty. I saw it as subtle storytelling.
I'm sure it was great. I was just over it all at this point. But and I'm like, I don't want any more talk. And then my favorite guy comes out to talk, and I'm just like, I don't care, Mello. Don't.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it was pretty much burnt out, too. I got a little bit of a refresher when I kind of slept through the Imperium package, but We got Trick Mello then left the building after the commercial break, where the guy at the door they gave the keys to doesn't have the keys anymore, but somehow as they walked out the door, before asking the guy for the keys, they did not see Cameron Grimes was clearly standing at the hood of their car. Mm-hmm. And so the doorman had to point to them that Cameron Grimes was standing there.
Mm-hmm.
Where Cameron kind of reiterated what was in his promo package earlier in the night. This year, Cameron is focusing on titles and kind of lay that out there that Mello's title is what he's focusing on. I would personally prefer to see Cameron in a top title feud, but I mean, I guess he's going for the A title of NXT, so it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm all in favor of Cameron Grimes versus either Braun Breaker or Carmelo Hayes. Like, it matters. Like, if you want to switch these two feuds, I'm fine with it. If it's Braun Breaker and Cameron Grimes and Santos and Mello, I'm fine. If you flip them back to the way that they're kind of telling the stories, I'm fine with them too. Like, neither of these feuds upset me.
Astrid, we haven't heard from you for a bit. Ed and I seem to do a lot of talking.
I was checking on my Scream ticket, so this was happening. So that tells you how interested I was. My Scream tickets were more important than that at the moment. No, just like I saw the beginning of the promo, and I was I remember seeing the shirt he made it with Tom_Customs. He's the one that makes the graphics on Twitter, the like made up matches, and one of them actually came for real. So a lot of people were always joking around when they see the graphics, they think they're actually happening and they're not. So shout out to Tom for his graphics; they're really cool. But yeah, just like I saw the shirt, I'm like, oh, he's the shirt again at least. And then I'm like, can we get the Scream tickets now? Sure. Okay. And then, yeah, I didn't pay attention to that because they lost me right then.
I think we are getting a raid from Jupiter Vision based on the fact that we have a whole bunch of people saying hello to us guys and ladies. So hello, Jupiter Vision and all the people, support staff, and the Omen fan. Thank you for joining us. Oh, one of them even knows Cody personally by saying, hey, Cody.
Yes. Hello, Eric.
The Omen fan. So thank you for joining us. You're joining us kind of at the end of our show. But we do review NXT, and the show before us reviews Power from the NWA every Tuesday night around 10 o'clock. And our Powerrrout team is Zach and Ella J of A Wrestling Gal podcast and all of the fine things that she does. And then I am joined by these two lovely folks almost every Tuesday night to talk about NXT. There's a question if we ever stream with Dixie Wrecked. I don't know. Maybe that's something Cody understands. I don't.
Nope. Never heard.
No idea. But maybe if they reach out to us, we'll see. Who knows? I have no question. I have no answers, actually. I have plenty of questions. One, who are they?
We also didn't really get anything set up for next week, eh?
Nope. I have no idea what's on the show next week.
There was nothing. Usually we get before the main event
the graphics.
The graphics of this is what we've kind of set up now as matches coming. There is nothing on the card for next week's NXT. Nothing announced. So.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
I can use it for Manscaped later if I want to.
But it was definitely a down NXT, and its timing couldn't be worse with all of the releases and everything that it's going to. Whether it was the fault of all of the people that got released this week or not, the fact that this was a down NXT is going to be blamed on the fact that they took away all of these people that everybody loved and cared about in the NXT backstage development area.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're 100% right. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, I don't think this has anything to do with a new writing team. I don't think this has to, because all of the stuff in the stuff, except for the Boa Fireball, is all stuff that I kind of expect to see on NXT. Like, none of this felt out of place. The whole show just didn't feel like it had the oomph that it normally has. You know what I'm saying? Like normally if I were thinking that it was going to be like taking a hit because of main roster writing or trying to fall in line with main roster television, you would think like we're going to see things that we wouldn't normally see. None of these segments felt like it's something that's out of the realms of NXT normality.
It didn't have that cohesion that we've been seeing in previous years or previous weeks, though. There's been so much cohesion and so much storytelling throughout the shows up until this point, where something that you see at the start of the night, like the Grayson Waller stuff at the show pre-NXT or New Year's Evil, where it's, you know, he's a key part of the story throughout the show that keeps popping up. We didn't have that tonight. Everything kind of felt like it was a little bit more isolated. You had a couple of those brief passing moments, like Santos with Braun and like AJ coming out with Mello there, but you didn't have as much of that where everything just felt like it was flowing together. It was a lot more choppy, a lot more jumping around, a lot more backstage segments with interviews, pre-taped promo videos. There was not as much on-site people walking around and interacting and mingling and crossing paths and stuff like that we've come to enjoy as part of the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the big thing that just made this episode a little bit harder to divulge deeply into, was that it felt so choppy.
Yeah. Astrid?
Yeah, just like I feel like the timing today, the pacing, just like it feels so off. It reminded me of that episode. I think it was the one for the go home show for Halloween Havoc. That just like it felt, even though it had, I'm like, it felt so slow, and I'm like, anything like it's gonna like highlight the show for me, and it just like I had to think about it. And if it wasn't for AJ and Grayson, I probably wouldn't have had like a favorite tonight, because everything was just like okay. But nothing like stood out to me tonight, unfortunately. And I wish it wouldn't have been like this, especially like being the show after New Year's Evil too. Just like I expected something more tonight.
Yeah.
Like I said, with Halloween Havoc, it was the same thing the week afterwards, that it felt like a down episode, but it still felt more cohesive to me, that it didn't feel like it was a really big step back. This week definitely felt like a step back, and there's no way if we'll know for sure if it is the loss of Regal and Road Dogg and the crew in the backstage area, but the timing of it couldn't be worse to have an episode that takes such a massive step back.
Yeah. And for those joining us, we just want to go ahead, and as we get ready to get out of here, we want to thank the people who make the shows possible. First, by thanking our friends at RK Athletics. RK Athletics 1 on Twitter and Instagram. They are the sponsor, one of the sponsors of the show, and they make everything you see possible. Thank you to Rich King, all the fine work he does in the Edmonton, Alberta area for personal training there. And if you don't live in Edmonton, Alberta area, you can reach out to RK Athletics 1 on Twitter and Instagram, and you can go ahead and work something out with him where he does virtual personal training workouts. Remember that you can find our merchandise at lovewrestling.ca/shop. You can find your stickers. You can find your Sunday brunch mugs. You can find your fanny packs and your Love Wrestling masks. And some of our t-shirts are there, especially our new Live, Laugh, Love Wrestling. I'll catch that one sooner or later. Speaking of places where you can find us, you can find all of our shows on youtube.com/lovewrestlingca after they air. You can watch all of our live content at twitch.tv/lovewrestlingca. And you can go ahead and give us a rate on ratethispodcast.com/lovewrestlingca, so we can try to become one of the number one sports podcasts in Canada. Don't forget also that we have our What a Maneuver store that's just recently launched. You can go to whatamanoeuvre.net/love-wrestling-ca. And you can go ahead. Right now we have 3 designs up, including 2 of our basic design. And we have our Pride shirt up there as well that has all of our proceeds from that shirt going to the Trevor Project. So go ahead and support that to support a great cause. You don't have to do it during Pride Month. You can do it any month of the year. And it's an awesome shirt that you can go ahead and support Love Wrestling, because we support everybody. We love all of wrestling. And again, don't forget to go to manscaped.com and use the promo code Love Wrestling to get your 20% off and free worldwide shipping, not just to the US, not just to Canada, but worldwide shipping. Grayson Waller can order this and send it to his place in Australia. You know, you can go ahead and
can order his and send it to the UK.
Yeah, he can send it to the UK. He can send it to Austria, where he, you know, his home over there in Austria or Germany, wherever he might be residing over in the, in the European area. Marcel Bartel can send his to Italy.
No, that would be Fabian Eichner.
Fabian Eichner goes to Italy.
Marcel Bartel. German. Come on, Ed.
And they're the Imperium boys. One of them speaks German, one of them speaks Italian. I don't know which one's which. I'll be honest. I really don't.
I'm gonna have to get Tony out there to get me some guys.
And just remember that the support for NXT is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 4 million men who trust Manscaped worldwide with this exclusive offer. Manscaped.com using the promo code LOVEWRESTLING for 20% off and free shipping. As me and Cody talked about earlier, the 4.0 is great. It has the 4000K LED spotlight. It has the ability to be able to use in the shower. You can have it underwater for about under a meter of water for about 30 minutes, and it's waterproof at that point. It has the skin safe technology, so you're not going to, get any nicks or cuts. It's going to trim down having any ingrown hairs and things like that. Remember, get 20% off and free shipping worldwide when you use the code LOVEWRESTLING at manscaped.com. manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using the promo code LOVEWRESTLING. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. With that being said, yeah, I got the whole read in this time. It was great. Yeah. And with that, we're going to go ahead and give it to Cody, and Cody's going to tell us about all the fine things he's doing. I know I saw one thing, but I don't know if that's able to be announced yet, so I'm going to leave that alone.
There's a something coming. There's something big coming.
Are we announcing it yet, or are we going to hold off?
We're not announcing it because I do not have a confirmed date for it, but there is a new program coming to the Love Wrestling streaming services. So make sure you're following all of the Love Wrestling at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you follow your socials, and also give me a follow right here at Cody Defoe on the Twitter. I'll be tweeting myself on there. There is going to be a lot of fun coming up on my feeds, and you'll follow and find that out on there. Otherwise, I'm here Tuesday nights for the NXT with these two wonderful people, possibly doing more pay-per-view follow-ups for Impact in the near future. Potentially getting back into some New Japan stuff in the near future here, and anything else that I can find time to fit myself into, and find maybe a third or fourth end of my candle to burn, because both ends isn't enough right now.
The big star with the big screen.
Okay. Let's see. So yeah, working on the women's wrestling show. So just stay tuned to the social media accounts for Love Wrestling for more details about that. So I have somebody hopefully coming on with me, so it'll be a surprise for later on. I do have an interview lined up for this month, so hopefully we'll release it by the end of the month on the Love Wrestling channels, on YouTube specifically. So watch out for that. And yeah, just watch out for everything, because I have things that I'm working out, so I can't say much yet. But other than that, I'll be here on Tuesdays for NXT with Cody and Ed as usual. So that's it for me for now, though.
And of course, you can find me at edfries12584 on Twitter. You can find me here co-hosting with these lovely people. Just to give you a nice little promo, because we're going to be announcing it anyways. In 2 weeks, on my birthday, January 25th, we're going to have independent pro wrestler Coda Holiday joining us to go ahead and review NXT, as Cody will be unavailable that night, unfortunately. Yes, big tears. So we decided we're going to get a friend in, so we're going to go ahead and have Coda Holiday. She's running a show with some of the people from her faction in the independent Chicago area. So we'll have more news on all of that when that comes up in a couple weeks. But again, catch us here every Tuesday night at 10-ish o'clock for Powerrrout and NXT as a double feature. Remember, Powerrrout has a new guest host in Ella J joining Zach, so that's always great. And like I said, you can find me here. Also, remember, check out Turnbuckle Talk from today, entering the Wrestleverse, where me and Carl talked a whole bunch of fun stuff, including some discussion about whether or not the Forbidden Door in the Wrestleverse has been opened up. with Mickie James coming to the Royal Rumble and what that might mean for the rest of WWE and all kinds of fun stuff like that. Does anybody else have anything else?
Somebody call Doctor Strange so we can close this.
No, we want to open
No, the ladies opened it. Let's keep going.
By the way, I can't wait for that movie. Just going to say, like, I know we're not supposed to talk about that kind of stuff here, but Multiverse of Madness, I can't wait for.
Hey, if we can get a Macho Man cameo, I'm all for it.
Dude, if we could get a posthumous I was really hoping we get a posthumous Macho Man cameo for the Spider-Man movie that we didn't get. That was sad. I don't feel like that's a spoiler at all that we don't get that cameo from it.
No, the spoiler window already closed. You can say
Are
whatever.
we sure? Like I with Spider-Man, I kind of hold it open because like that was a big movie, a whole bunch of good stuff happening.
I know. I need a second. I need to watch it a second time to dissect it more.
I can't wait for that thing to come on digital.
I know. Yeah.
We can talk about this when we get off the air. Thank you all for joining us this week on NXT. Have a great night. Goodbye.